That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Kandisha, the fifth film directed by Alexandre Bustillo and Julien Maury, which premiered at the 2020 Sitges Film Festival and will be premiering on Shudder July 22nd, 2021.
Oh, it is Shudder.
Yeah.
I should explain the mask. I had a little work done on my jaw and my teeth, which has left me not feeling my best. I'm also having a difficult time speaking. So we're going to try this out.
So you're going to choose your words wisely.
Well, I might be more economical, but I don't know if I'll be smarter. Anyway, so these people did a movie I really liked.
Yeah, their debut was the 2007 film Inside, which has received a rather piss poor remake, which kind of makes them part of the OG group now known as the New French Extremity Movement. Back in the late 2000s, they were lumped into coterie of directors that were called the Splat Pack, actually. But yeah, since then, I'd make an argument for their 2011 film Livid, but I haven't really liked anything they've done since then. 2017, they did a prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Leatherface that I think was considered an overall disappointment. So they've kind of regrouped, they've gone back to France. They filmed Kandisha back to back with another film called The Deep House, which has just opened in France, I believe, shot underwater. So I was looking forward to this, but...
Yeah, I was too, and I'm disappointed.
Same.
I did not care for this movie. Okay, the basic story is there are a group of young people, and we hear them tell the story of Kandisha, which is very similar to like Candyman, Bloody Mary, La Llorona, very derivative.
And maybe a little bit of, I was reading about Lilith, the Jewish she-demon.
Basically, this female demon stalks men and kills them.
She's Moroccan.
She's Moroccan. Okay. So one of the girls, and we'll get into these characters because I was very confused by the cast and characters, but one of the girls who's part of this group is someone attempts to sexually assault her, a man who she used to date but then ghosted him and now he's mad and crazy. So after the assault, she goes home and summons Kandisha. Shortly thereafter, the man dies. He's hit by a car. And now this woman believes she is responsible because she summoned Kandisha. But her friends are like, no, girl, that's just urban legend. But then more men who are part of their group start dying. So now they believe it. They end up seeking information from this old man who has old books and tells them, like in every movie like this, like some character knows the lore.
He's referred to as a satanic imam.
That was a bullshit scene. But anyway, he explains who she is. They decide they have to summon her, like in a seance, to perhaps banish her. They do summon her, but everything culminates with Kandisha attempting to take kill the young boy who's a brother of one of the lead characters.
Amelie's brother, yeah.
And she decides to sacrifice herself so that her brother's not harmed, which means they're in this old high-rise building that's about to be demolished. And the main girl grabs Kandisha and drags her down, plummeting down an elevator chute. So the film ends with everyone thinking Kandisha's gone, the main girl's dead, but we see that now Kandisha's reincarnated with the spirit of the dead main girl.
The white one.
The end.
Which is kind of problematic as we dig into it, maybe. But it started off with great, as you had said, a beautiful opening shot in the film, and we're introduced to this what's called a banlieue community, outlying housing projects, suburban working class projects outside of major city centers. And each of the main characters, Bintou, Amélie, and Morjana, are each of different an ethnic background. They seem to be they're presented as friends, but they seem like they really don't like one another, and maybe it's just out of force of habit that they're still together. They're also supposed to be on summer break, which
I'm so confused because their ages seem all over the place.
Yeah.
The main black girl, she seems to be the youngest.
Bintou.
Like she'd be in high school. But then she goes to visit her friend who appears to be the oldest, like she's in her 30s, who works in a hospital. But then one of the characters in the hospital says, hey, black girl, you want a job? And then her friend's like, oh, yeah, you don't need to work because your parents pay your rent. I was very confused.
I was confused, and I thought that it was so heavy-handed with kind of the racial remarks. I thought they were going to actually be saying something about the makeup of this community,
right.
And using genre to kind of tell what really could be a fascinating tale about, this feminist, man-hating spirit.
I didn't even bother to know their names because these characters, there's just nothing to them. Like you mentioned, my very first note is like, this group of people, they really like to talk about race, and they really like to do graffiti.
Yeah,
that's all we know about them.
They're taggers. But I thought that the statement they were trying to make was that though they are defining each other so disparately, they're really kind of all the same because there's nothing differentiating them as characters. And I thought that was the statement they were trying to make, but I don't think that was intended.
If it was, it wasn't executed well. It just seems so basic. Like once we're introduced to Kandisha and the first boy dies, then we get like 4 more men who are then killed in not the most inventive ways.
There's some gore because somebody's body gets ripped apart and she mangles another one.
One gets thrown off of a high rise, so he splats to the ground. Another one, there's a steam room scene where one gets like trampled on. But I mean, it's sort of gory, but it's another issue I have is the mood this film creates is so off because the lighting, which I think is ironic because the opening scene was very promising, but then the lighting of everything and the way like the set is set up, I like for many scenes I'm like, oh, I'm on a set, or it's too bright in here. But the biggest issue I have with this movie is Kandisha, the spirit. The way she manifests, she just looks like...
Would you say Shakira?
She looks like Shakira from the Beautiful Liar video.
Yeah.
It just looks like a beautiful woman wearing her outfit. She doesn't look like an evil spirit, which is fine, except that she looks like she could just be another character in the scene.
Yeah, there's a seance scene where they're all holding hands on the floor, which I think is particularly kind of terrible because she rises up between them and it looks, kind of like a high school theatrical production.
Yeah.
And also, Kandisha is supposed to be a seductress, kind of almost like a siren, because the bits we get of her legend is that her husband was killed by these invading Portuguese soldiers, and that's how she kind of came to be. But she has hooves and she changes shape at times, but I think we don't really get a sense of the spirit in a way that is necessary to build dread and tension.
No, not at all. She does sort of have a cool aesthetic, but then for most of when we see her, she's pretty. She has a beautiful body. Her breasts are out, but the sort of final scene where she's been summoned, then she looks like Andre the Giant. She's like 9 feet tall. Her body's not quite right. So I feel like they could have played that up more because she is a seductress. So obviously she shifts form to seduce men, which is obvious, but it just felt so jarring. Like, oh, all of a sudden she's this tall bowl of pudding.
Right.
Like,
and she's also not really used to seduce men because the second boy that dies in the fire in the pit of that pool where they're having that party, she's not really even present. And we're told that if she's summoned, she basically has to go on a cycle of killing 6 men or whatever. Again, in ways that aren't done in an interesting fashion, that this could have been a vehicle to make kind of an interesting statement. One of their peripheral friends is pregnant, and her water breaks in that scene I referenced. And I wanted it to have a moment kind of like the film Who Can Kill a Child, which also had a really terrible remake.
I can. No, just kidding.
No, it's about this couple. It's about this couple that goes to this desolate island where all the children, kind of like Children of the Corn, have killed all the adults. And the female protagonist is pregnant. She's carrying a boy baby, and it basically rips her from the inside out, which I thought would have been something interesting to do here. But what do I know?
I only have a few notes. There's a scene where like the group of girls sacrifice a bunny. That I thought was so corny. I thought the seance scene was the most effective at being creepy, but then it kind of looked cheap, so that took me out. The scene where the boy catches on fire in the pool, they don't try to help his
No,
ass
they
at
don't.
all.
They don't. They just all...
He ignites in flames and they just look at him like, well, and you were screaming like, stop, drop, and roll.
Which he does not. I wanted this kind of triptych of girls to be maybe more like The Craft, and kind of how women are subjugated in a certain way, and this is a way to rise up. I really didn't like the satanic imam who looked like Sid Haig to me.
That was a mess. Yeah.
I was also reminded of the recent film Seance, which we reviewed, which turns out not to really have a supernatural element like this.
Spoiler.
It was edited by Baxter, who's Alexander Aja's longtime editor. And I guess there's no real issue with the editing. The cinematographer was Simon Roca, who has done quite a few productions, including the last film from this cult director F.J. Osang called Nine Fingers, which is, I think, worth the watch. But yeah, ironically, what was so powerful and creepy about Inside is the use of darkness in that film, and kind of the apparition of a Beatrice doll, who's kind of terrifying in that film. And she does make a small appearance in Livid, which I think is also why I kind of like that film. But
if you do watch this movie, I would recommend then getting the original Inside.
Yeah, from 2007.
And you'll be blown away that the same people made these two movies, because this one to me felt so weak.
I wonder, it just is derivative in every sense of the term, and they basically shot this back to back with their other new feature, The Deep House, which is, I think, was a much more extensive shoot, and I don't know if that kind of absorbed all their energies, because, like I said, that's shot, a majority of that is shot underwater, and I haven't seen it yet, but this, as you had pointed out, seems like it was written by people that were a little older than the characters they're writing about and have no real sense of them.
Yes.
Which, because also Bintou's characters, I think we're introduced where she's wearing the Ramon shirt, and there's a bunch of banter about how you don't even know a Ramon song. And
anyway, I'm afraid the battery is going to die. What would you give this film?
I would give it 1 out of 5 stars.
I would give it 1 out of 5 as well.
It deserves its own revocation.
Oh, anything else?
No.
Bye.
Bye.